So in this video, we're going to look at how you can get real nice, clean, crisp portraits out of your camera using manual settings, but we're only going to be changing one setting. So it's nice and easy. I found a nice little technique, and we're also then going to put it into practice, hopefully today as well. I'm going to literally, in real time, go out and take a couple of snaps of Tia just outside on the road out there, and we'll bring them back in. I'll show you the straight out of camera shots. We'll stick a preset on it, just so you can see that workflow from taking the shot, the settings and everything to the finished product. Here we go. Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to quickly run through all the settings now. I'm just going to tell you the settings because most of them I'm going to set on the camera now before we even leave. And I'm going to be leaving one setting that we're going to be changing to get our exposure right. Okay, so going through the settings one by one, in case I keep looking away, it's because I've got some notes down here. But we're going to be setting the camera to take raw images because then that's going to give us the most flexibility in post afterwards. We're going to be shooting in PP2. PP2 is a picture profile for the Sony cameras, which was kind of developed for stills. So whatever that might be in whatever camera you're using, if you're on a different camera system, Canons, whatever it is, I'd just recommend using, like a fairly plain picture profile. I wouldn't use anything too fancy because again, we're going to do all of the editing afterwards in Lightroom. So I just pick a fairly plain picture profile, whatever's on your camera. Eye autofocus we want activated. On my camera I have to assign a button to make eye autofocus work. If you've got one of the other Sonys, I believe you've got the 6400 or the 6600, it kind of happens automatically. So just make sure you've got face detection turned on your camera if you've got that, which hopefully you have. And also activate the eye autofocus. The white balance, I never dial this in too accurately. I just use the presettings on the camera, so I know that looking outside today, it's pretty cloudy, so I'm just going to set it to cloudy. But whatever it might be, if it's sunny where you are, daylight, if you're working in the shade, there's usually a setting for the shade. I just use whatever those settings are there because again, we're going to be shooting in RAW, so we can really fine tune that. We can easily fine tune that in Lightroom. Another little setting that you can use, and this is kind of optional, you don't have to use this. It's a bit, a lot of the time I just sort of use my eye, to be honest. I don't really judge the metering on the camera too much. But you can set your zebras. If you've got a camera that's got zebras are used for, for showing, usually if you go over, if anything's overexposed, the zebras will show up on your monitor there to show you that you're overexposed in a certain area of the picture. I've actually set a custom zebra setting on this camera of 70 plus or minus 5. And the reason being is that is kind of the exposure level for skin. So there is a sort of little cheat you can do if you set your zebras to 70 plus or minus 5. And then when you're composing your portrait, if you try and aim to get just a little bit of zebras on the person's highlights on the, so for instance, sort of around here, I'm using it now, and I've got just a few zebras on my face, just on the highlights and stuff. That will help ensure that your skin tones are exposed properly. Again, it's not the end of the world because we're shooting in RAW. We can push and pull the exposure in post, but it's another little setting that I do sometimes, especially in video. I use that a lot more, but you can use it in portraits as well. So just another little tip there. And so now onto the actual exposure settings, which as I mentioned, I'm going to leave the camera, so I'm only adjusting one setting. So we've just run through those settings there. Exposure settings, well, we know we're shooting in daylight, so we don't need the ISO level set high because ISO is what's going to introduce noise into the pictures, which is the last thing that we want because this whole video is about making clean portrait images. So ISO we're going to set to 100, whatever the lowest setting on your camera is basically. Some I think go down to 50. On this camera it's 100. Set it as low as you can. You can keep that there. We're shooting in light. We don't need it any higher than that. Okay, f-stop. As you say, like I'm a bit of a whore for the 1.4. I kind of shoot them all at 1.4 for portraits. But whatever your camera is, if you might have the Sony 35mm that goes down to 1.8, I'd suggest using that. Basically, I generally would set the aperture to the widest aperture you can, which weirdly is the lowest number. So like 1.4, 1.8, 1.2 if you're lucky, whatever, it will go down to, because that's going to give you the most bokeh, which we all love that bokeh, don't we? Which leaves only one setting, which is the shutter speed. So this is the little technique that I've developed. I kind of dial all those other settings in that we've just spoken about, and then so I just leave myself with the shutter speed. So on this Sony camera, it's on the back of the camera. I just roll the little dial round, and that kind of, that speeds up or slows down the shutter speed. So I then just dial that around until I'm happy with how the image looks. Everything else I kind of set, and I know I'm not really going to mess with, unless I'm going to go from kind of shooting in bright conditions and then suddenly I'm going to go indoors, then yeah, of course you're going to have to change more settings. But if you're, if you're doing a shoot like I do with Tia, those kind of shoots, you're doing it with family, friends, you want to just go and get some nice portraits in the daytime, I set all those settings so they're all left. I don't touch them, and then I just adjust that shutter speed just to dial it in. So if the light slightly goes in, if the sun goes behind a cloud, I'll just dial it round and let a little bit more light in. If we go under, like a tree, like we've got a bit more shade, I'll dial it the other way to slow the shutter speed to let a bit more light in again there. So hopefully, it works for me. I'm hoping it might work for you. But anyway, I'm going to now go and try and find Tia. We're going to go out, take a quick snap. I'll come back in here and I'll kind of do it all in real time. I'll try and film it on a GoPro and show you the settings and stuff so you can see what's going on. But I'm waffling now. I'll go and do it. See you in a mo. Right, looks like it's just about to rain, so try and get a quick couple of snaps before the heavens open. So I'll try and let you guys see what settings I've got going on the camera here. So it's all the settings that we just discussed. So Tia, yeah, sorry, have you just come forward a little bit? Just sort of stand and sit right in the middle of the road. So we've got all those settings that we just discussed on the video. And now, so purely, I'm literally just gonna, you'll see the zebras are going there. I'm literally just gonna now control the exposure purely with the dial for the shutter speed. So if we come in, I'm trying to shoot from the hip here a little bit, just so you guys can see what's going on the actual camera screen. So if we have a look in, again, I'm not too fussed about possibly underexposing ever so slightly, because I know I can brighten it up in post. I'd say about there, and then this activate eye autofocus and reel off a couple of snaps. Let's try a little bit closer. And let's go for a full length, full body one. Not going to go mad, this is only just a few quick examples so you guys can see. Let's try one. Is it too wet on the floor? Can you just sit on the edge of the curb, maybe? That's it. Let's just get some nice leading lines. Oh yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Get some nice. Use the curb as a bit of a leading line. I hope you guys can see this. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, that's good too. Yeah. Let's come a bit closer. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's just try and frame it so that the house isn't behind Tia's head quite so much. 2, 3. Let's just try a close up. Okay, ready. 1, 2, 3. But just so you guys can see again, so look, you'll see just to adjust the exposure, I can now literally, obviously brightening it up, or making it a bit darker until I'm happy, just by purely using this one setting. Okay, so now we'll go back, check these out in Lightroom, and you guys can see the results. Cheers, Tia. That's it, we're done. Here we are back in Lightroom with our nice clean portraits that we've just taken. Look, check this out, look at the detail there in the eyelashes and stuff. That's pretty incredible. But anyway, let's just let's try bang in a couple of presets on these. Shameless plug, I'm going to use my own presets. If you've got photographers out there that you dig the way that they edit their photos, by all means download their presets. If you download mine, I would be super grateful, because you're helping to support the channel and all that stuff. But here we go. Let's just, as we see, we can flick through. A lot of these I know aren't necessarily gonna work for this scenario, but let's just see what we got. That actually looks pretty decent, to be honest. The Golden Woods one, weirdly, seems to work pretty well. Moody green, seaside, kind of pumps everything up a little bit. Teal and orange always looks pretty good. That needs a few little tweaks, but that looks okay. Urban brown, urban green. I really like this one. It always gives to me. It gives a nice sort of film look to the images. This one, urban green punch, is similar, but it just gives a bit more oomph into the highlights, just to give a bit more contrast. And the vintage one, that looks pretty nice as well. Let's, for instance, let's just go with the teal and orange for the time being. This needs a little bit of tweaking. the exposure up a little bit, drop the saturation down a little bit. Let's do a quick before and after. So there you can see from the straight out of camera raw file, if I do a quick before and after, I'd say that looks like a pretty decent edit there, like which you've seen has just taken like a few seconds. So there's the before, there's the after, and let's just because obviously we've taken all those photos in the same setting, let's just copy all those settings that we've just done, and we can paste it. So here looking looking super happy in that one. Let's paste them onto there. See, look, yeah, that looks pretty cool. That could maybe go, let's just up the exposure a little bit more on that one. Maybe drop down the, let's just drop down the clarity a little bit actually, just so we get a bit of a softer looking. That's something we could do back on that one. Let's just drop that clarity down. And I'm not going to go crazy with these edits, you know, I would go in normally, I'd go in and, you know, sort of retouch all the skin, all that kind of stuff, but I'm just trying to show you how sort of, you know, quickly the process of from taking the image to getting decent results quickly. That's kind of what I'm trying to show here. Let's just paste them onto here again. There we go. Let's just bring it up a tiny bit. Drop down that clarity. In fact, let's just copy them from that one. Oh, I'm not sure about the facial expression on that one, didn't quite, oh there we go, that looks pretty cool, that one. Stick that on there, and that close-up one, just paste those settings onto there. So again, yeah, obviously, you know, I would retouch that a little bit, but again, like I say, I'm not going to go crazy. But yeah, they look pretty decent. I'm just going to do a couple of before and afters. So there's the before, after. Again, I'd go, you know, I'd go in and brighten the eyes up a little bit, all that kind of stuff. Whereas this one, here we go, look, before, after. So I just wanted you guys to see, really, you know, there's no kind of secret part of the process that I'm missing out from these or anything. This is how I'd go out and shoot the picture, bring it back into Lightroom, stick one of my presets on, and these are the results that you would get. So, and I think, you know, that's a pretty decent end result there. Let's just go back through a couple of these before and after. So there's the after, before, after. So, you know, I think that's come out pretty sweet, to be honest. Let's have a look. I mean, just out of interest, let's have a little go. That Golden Woods one looks pretty cool. Got to stop using the word cool. I keep saying cool for everything, but that looks nice as well. You know, it's got quite a nice sort of warm tone to it up there. I quite like that. Compared again to the before. What else have we got? Urban Brown. Yeah, I don't mind that as well. That looks pretty nice. So anyway, I want to leave that there though. Just like I say, just a real quick example. It's probably not that quick. This video's probably gone on for ages, but I will hand myself back to myself for my little outro. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that and it came in useful. I hope it gets you out there snapping loads of pictures of friends and family and stuff. I've got loads of other videos based around this camera system, the Sigma lenses, all that kind of thing. You know, if you like the video, please think about liking and subscribing, and I will see you again in the next one. Cheers.